This video is going to show you how to import nominal DXF file and then create an overlay from that file. I click M3, open, I choose DXF, I choose the file location and I choose my DXF file. I can turn on and off layers, change units, change scaling and change my mirroring. X, Y, both or no. Done. This now imports my DXF file. First thing I'm going to do is create a 0 point down in the corner here. That will enable me later when I bring back my overlay to measure my part, I can actually lock it to my part, and I'm going to lock to a datum. So I'm going to make a 0 point between that line and say done. I'm going to delete the point. I don't actually need the point when I export. So the next thing I'm going to do is create a profile from all of these DXF features. I select profile, I select all. I could just select a portion of it if I want. Maybe it's just the circles, maybe it's just the slots, but I'm just going to select everything. Say done. Creates my profile. Click in here. It brings my profile tolerance up. I click on the profile tolerance button. Now I can put in my upper and lower limits. In this case I'm going to use the 5/10 that's shown here. Selecting the blue, 5/10, 5/10, done, done and done. Now you will see my file has been brought in. My DXF has been created with my upper and lower bands on it. First thing I'm going to do, you can see my nominal in the middle and then my upper and lower limits. I'm going to click on this icon and turn off, that's the change icon, and it's actually going to change and take away my nominal. If I hit it again, it will show just nominal as you see here. If I hit it again, it will show both. Now you'll also see I've got reds and yellows. I want these, the red being dark, the yellow being light. These need to correspond to my part. So you can see down here in my video window, the outside should be light, the inside should be dark. My inside features, the inside will be light, the outside will be dark. So I need to change these to correspond. So I click here, and now I can go around and make sure that they're reading the right way. So I click on the red, it becomes light. I click on the red, it becomes light. Here, these are light inside, dark outside. These are all correct. This one's wrong. These are incorrect as well. I can also long hold this button and change, if all these are joined up, these lines, I can actually change the whole go. I can actually flip it in one go just by doing a long press on this icon here. But as these aren't joined, I'm actually having to do it individually. Here. So now these are all lights, outsides are darks, the outside of my part are all light and the inside are dark. Once I've set my bands, I can now export this as my overlay. Now this will only be done once. This is just in my initial setup of my file. So to export the file, I select Report, Export, DXF, I give it a name, I'm going to call it emulated DXF and click save. That has now created my file for me to bring in later to compare to my part. M3, new, yes. It's deleted all my features. I now have my part on my screen. I can bring in my DXF and now I can see if my part fits to my overlay. So to do that, I select down here on my measure icons. I long press down on my overlay icon here and I select the file that I want to bring in. And in this case it's my emulated DXF. I say open and it pops up on my screen. So a couple of things here. I can left click and drag my overlay to my part, or I could just move my part to my overlay. So in this instance I'm actually going to move my overlay back to my part, and once I've got it all lined up it goes green. I can also hit the left and right arrow keys. I click on my overlay, use my left and right arrow keys or up and down, and you'll see the overlay change. This is just a little shuffle of my overlay. Now what I can do is I can select pin, which will lock it now in position. Now if I move my part, my overlay will stay with it. The other way of doing this is actually, as I did a 0 on my DXF file, is to recreate the same 0 point, and then the file will automatically lock to my part. So to do this, I'm going to do a new part again. I'm going to say measure a skew line here, done. Measure this line, ask for a 0 point between the two and say done. I can actually delete these features as I don't really need them now. Come back to my measuring icons and I'm going to ask for my overlay. Emulated DXF and say open. You'll see that it's jumped over to the right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask to lock it. Then I'm going to long press on this icon here. As I long press, it will now lock to my part 0. And so I can move my part down my table and my overlay will stay with it. And that's how you create an overlay, and also how you bring your overlay in to compare it to your part. Now once you've created it, all you'll need to do is just long press down on my overlay icon, open the file that I want, and it will bring it back up onto my screen.